Today we're talking about the guillotine.
Again?
What?
Rear naked choke, triangle, and now guillotine? I'm starting to think your instructionals are just a legal way to kill me.
Educationally.
That does not make it better.
The guillotine is one of those submissions everybody thinks they know because it looks simple. Grab the head, squeeze really hard, and make an angry face.
That is most white belt guillotines.
Exactly. And that is why they start to fail. By the end of this video, you're going to know the arm out guillotine, the arm in guillotine, how they finish differently, how to set them up, and the 4 mistakes that make people squeeze until their arms die out and nobody taps. And stick around, because later on I'm going to show you the exact detail that stops the head from popping out, the reason the arm in guillotine feels like bad plumbing, and the mistake where you need to stop trying to finish before you burn your arms out or you go to sleep.
Bad plumbing?
You'll understand soon.
I'm already concerned.
Good, let's do it. The mistake a lot of people make is thinking the guillotine is just squeezing someone's head. That is why their arms burn out. I'm not trying to crush your skull. I'm putting my wrists into the correct part of the neck, blocking the right angle, controlling where her head can go, and using my body to cut off the blood. That is the difference between a real guillotine and aggressively hugging someone's face.
One of those sounds less criminal.
The legal one is the one where they tap. Before we look at the setups, we have to fix the grip. Let's look at the arm out version first. For the arm out guillotine, my wrist has to be under the chin. This is the arm out guillotine, meaning her arm is not trapped inside the choke. The first detail is my choking arm. I make a fist, and I grab this piece of meat right here with my other hand. This fist becomes a hook that helps me pull my wrist through her neck. I do not need my elbow pit buried into the artery like some other chokes. What I need is this part of my wrist under her chin. If her neck is the wall and under her chin is the ceiling, I want my wrist right in that corner where the wall meets the ceiling.
This is an uncomfortable renovation.
This house is getting choked. So the first checkpoint is simple. Wrist under the chin, fist grip, no loose fingers, no space between my wrist and her neck. If this part is wrong, nothing else is gonna feel right. But the grip is only half the battle. Watch how we lock them in. The elbow goes high over the shoulder. This is the detail that makes the arm out guillotine nasty. On the arm out guillotine, I want my elbow to come up over her shoulder. This is a style that Marcelo Garcia made famous, and it is one of the tightest versions of the guillotine. When my elbow is low, she has more room to defend, peel, posture, or slip her head out. This version is not terrible, but it gives her options.
I like options.
That's why I take them away. When my elbow comes high over the shoulder, it blocks a lot of her defenses and makes the choke tighter. Now I drop my wrist through her neck while my forearm pushes into her shoulder. Then I hold steady pressure. Do not squeeze, relax, steady pressure. Wrist through the neck, forearm into the shoulder, elbow high. That is the arm out guillotine.
That escalated quickly.
That's the point. Before we switch the arm in, check the arm out one more time. Wrist under the chin, fist grip, shoulder covers the head, elbow goes high, steady pressure. If you miss the wrist, it's loose. If you miss the elbow, it's weak. If you miss the shoulder, her head starts escaping.
I was about to request the escaping version.
How about no? And now this is where people mess up. They try to finish the arm in guillotine the exact same way, but her arm changes everything. The arm in guillotine finishes by crimping the neck. This version is different because now her arm is inside. Because her arm is in the way, I can't get my elbow high over the shoulder the same way I did on the arm out guillotine. So if I try to finish this exactly like the arm out version, it is probably not going to work on someone good. The grip starts very similar. I still want this wrist under the chin, right in that corner where the neck meets the jaw. But the finish changes. Arm out is wrist through and elbow high. With arm in, we crimp the neck.
I already hate the word crimp.
You're going to hate the feeling even more. And in a second, I'm going to give you the easiest way to remember it. Because once you see it like a garden hose, you would never forget how this choke works. Think of the neck like a garden hose. If water is running through a hose, how do you stop the water? One way is to squeeze the hose. That is more like the arm out guillotine. I'm squeezing and driving through the neck. But there is another way. You can bend the hose and crimp it, and the water stops. For the arm in guillotine, her neck is the garden hose, and the blood going to her brain is the water. So instead of just squeezing, I bend her head towards her own body and crimp the hose. Same wrist position, same corner under the chin. But now I arch, fold her head down, and crunch her into the choke. That is what finishes the arm in guillotine.
So I'm plumbing now?
Bad plumbing, no water pressure. Stick around because in a few minutes, I'll show you a detail using the legs that does a lot of the crimping work for you. First, let's take it to the mat. On the ground, I finish the arm out guillotine on the hip by the head. This part matters a lot. If I have the arm out guillotine, I get my wrist under the chin, make my fist grip, cover the head, and lean toward her head so my elbow can come high over the shoulder. When I go to the ground, I do not fall flat on my back, with my hips facing the ceiling. That kills the leverage. I want to land on the same side hip as her head. Just like the Backstreet Boys, I want it that way.
Tell me why.
If her head is on this side, I am on this hip. If I fall to the wrong hip, my guillotine gets weaker and her head starts to pop out.
It ain't nothing but a mistake.
Correct. Same side hip, shoulder over the neck, elbow high, wrist through, forearm into the shoulder, steady pressure. And in the next detail, I'll show you exactly how to know if her head is about to escape before it happens. If I can see her hairline, her head can pop out. Remember in the beginning when I said I would show you the detail that stops the head from popping out? This is it. When I fall back for the guillotine, I do not want her head hanging out. If I can see all this hair, she can start popping her head out.
But what if they're bald?
Then use your imagination. I want my shoulder over her head and neck. Now her head is trapped. I have my elbow high over her shoulder and I finish with steady pressure. Shoulder covers the head, elbow comes high, wrist drives through. That is how the arm out guillotine gets tight.
So less hair, more murder shoulder?
Educational murder shoulder. For the arming guillotine, I slide her head towards her own belly. Everything starts similar. My wrist gets into that corner under her chin. I make my grip. I cover the head with my shoulder and I turn onto the correct hip. But now her arm is inside, so I'm not lifting my elbow over the shoulder like the arm out guillotine. Instead, I am crimping the hose. If she had a sweaty forehead, I would want to make a sweat trail from where her head is all the way down towards her leg. Think of it like a snail trail.
That is a disgusting visual.
But you will never forget it. I slide her head down towards her leg that bends the neck and cuts off the blood flow. I am not just squeezing. I am crunching and crimping. That is arm and finish. For the arming guillotine, I use my legs to pull her lower body into me. Remember how I said we're going to use the legs to do a lot of the crimping work? This is the bonus detail that makes the choke much tighter. Once I have the arming guillotine and I'm crimping her head down, my legs help pull her lower half into me. As you can see, that folds her even more. Her head goes down and her body comes up. The hose gets cramped harder.
I would like to have a word with the plumbing department.
They are closed. Everybody thinks the arming guillotine is just squeezing harder. It is not. I pull her in, crunch her down, and hold steady pressure. And that is where the tap comes from. Arm in and arm out guillotines finish differently. This is important. For the arm out guillotine, I get the wrist under the chin, I cover the head, bring my elbow high over the shoulder, and drive the wrist through the neck while pushing into the shoulder. For the arm in guillotine, I cannot lift my elbow high the same way because her arm is inside, so I crimp the neck. I slide her head towards her knee, pull her lower body into me with my legs, and hold steady pressure. Arm out equals elbow high and wrist through. Arm in equals crimp the hose. If you mix those up, you're going to squeeze really hard and wondering why nobody is tapping.
That kind of sounds personally targeted at someone.
Informatively targeted. Now let's look at the best times to actually catch this in a roll. When they shoot, they are giving you the guillotine. Do not force the guillotine at random times. You want to attack it when the neck is exposed. One obvious time is whenever she shoots. When she shoots, her head comes forward and her neck is available. A lot of the time, this is going to be arm in because her arms are already wrapped around my legs. So I do not force the arm out version. I take what she gives me. But here's the part people miss. The neck is not enough. I cannot let her beat my legs and pass. I need to get my leg over her back, or at least keep my legs in a position where I can stay on my hip and finish. If she shoots and I wrap the neck, but she beats my legs, I am probably not finishing. Neck plus leg position. That is the guillotine. And later, I'll show you the exact mistake where you should stop squeezing and start recovering instead. One of my favorite guillotine setups is when she thinks she's coming up. I'm in this position that we call control one. Elbow on the neck, hand on the hip. I let her get the underhook because that is what she wants. She wants to bump, turn onto her side, and come up on top.
I was feeling very optimistic.
That was the trap. As she turned and came up, her neck opened. Once that happened, boom, I locked the guillotine. Then I crimp the hose and finish. This is strong because she thinks that she is escaping. But the moment she goes from bottom to top, her neck becomes available.
So hope was the setup?
Hope in a bad head position. Anytime they come from bottom to top, their neck can be exposed. This is how I want you to think about guillotines. It is not just one setup. It is a situation. If she wrestles up, her neck can be open. If she comes up from half guard, her neck can be open. If she tries to sweep and drive on top, her neck can be open. Anytime someone is driving from bottom to top, their head often comes forward. That is when I wrap the neck.
So trying hard is dangerous?
Trying hard with bad head position is dangerous. If their neck is open, wrap it. Then make sure your legs stop the pass and finish correctly. Speaking of making mistakes, let's go over the 4 main reasons your guillotines keep failing. If your guillotine is not working, your wrist is probably not touching the neck. This is the first mistake. People think they have the guillotine, but their wrist is way out here. This is not going to choke anything. This is just holding her head. I need my wrist in the corner of her chin. If I make a thumbs up, it should touch her jaw or her ear area. There should not be a big space between my wrist and her neck. Wrist touches the neck first. Then I build the finish. If the wrist is wrong, everything after that is weaker.
Step 1 is actually choking them?
That does help. If they beat your legs, stop trying to finish the guillotine. This is the second biggest mistake. I locked the guillotine, I went to fall to my back, and instead of getting my leg over her back and keeping my angle, she jumped past my guard. Now people keep squeezing from here and they burn their arms out. Do not do that. You're probably not finishing the guillotine from here. And even worse, it opens up the Von Flue submission they can use on you if you do not abandon the guillotine attempt. I love whenever I beat someone's legs and they keep trying to hold on because I'm just gonna Von Flue them. But there are other things you can do from here. You can roll, recover guard, or transition. But if they beat your legs, do not waste all your energy or your consciences pretending the choke is still there. I need my leg position so I can stay on my hip and keep the finishing angle. Neck control without leg control is not enough. If your arming guillotine is not working, you're probably not crimping the hose. A lot of people get the arming guillotine and just squeeze. They keep squeezing harder and the person does not tap. That is because the arming guillotine needs to crimp. I need to bring her head towards her knee and pull her body into me with my legs. It's like an ab crunch, not just a bicep squeeze. Crimp the hose, hold steady pressure, and the choke gets tight.
I missed the bad version.
Most people do. If your arm out guillotine is not working, lift your elbow. I see this all the time. Someone has a guillotine locked, they're squeezing as hard as they can, and the person is not tapping. A lot of the time, all they need is this. Lift the elbow.
Oh, that changed quickly.
Exactly. The elbow high blocks the defense and drives the choke tighter. So for arm out, do not just squeeze low. Wrist under the chin, shoulder over the head, elbow high, then steady pressure. 2 seconds later, the tap usually shows up. Told you. The guillotine is not one choke. It is a whole system. You have the arm out guillotine, you have the arm in guillotine. They start with similar wrist placement, but they finish differently. Arm out, wrist under the chin, shoulder over the head, elbow high over the shoulder, steady pressure. For arm in, wrist in the neck, shoulder over the head, correct hip angle, crimp the hose, pull the lower body in, steady pressure. You attack it when the neck is exposed. Shots, wrestle-ups, sweeps, bottom to top movement. And if your guillotine is not working, run this checklist. Is your wrist actually touching the neck? Did they beat your legs? Are you crimping the arm in? Are you lifting the elbow on the arm out? Fix those details, and your guillotine gets way more dangerous.
Speaking from experience.
Repeated experience.
I've seen it.
If you like this video, check out the video YouTube thinks you should watch next, and let us know if YouTube got it right. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.